In today's video, I wanted to tell you my first 2-year experience of using this vagus nerve activation device that is made by Parasym. And that's the company that makes this device. It's called Neurosym or Neuropod, I believe, depending on which market you buy it at. And by the way, that's also the company sponsoring this video. And if you're interested in this device at the end of this video, then check out the link in the video description below that you could use to get a discount. And I've had this now for a couple years and wanted to tell you what this device means to me, how do I use it personally, and why I think this is honestly one of the greatest biohacks available. The reason why I finally decided to make this video, why 2 years, is because one of you recently mentioned how they're using vagus nerve activation device on a daily basis. And I don't use it on a daily basis. And I'll explain to you why in just a moment. But I thought, okay, how often do I actually use it? I wanted to think about it and then tell you about it. So I, of course, promote this device as a form of additional treatment help that you can use for a variety of conditions. And you can check out many episodes dedicated to depression, anxiety, long COVID. Those are some of the obvious examples. Recently, I talked about rheumatoid arthritis, tinnitus. I focus on that. I also discussed POTS in the past. So a variety of different conditions. But I don't suffer from these conditions. So for me, would be more of a prophylactic use. But I actually realized that I do get to use it frequently for other purposes that are for treatment for myself. And the reason why is because you have to understand what this device actually really is and what it means. Because for me, this device has become my number one toolkit in my medicinal cabinet, if you will. I travel now with this everywhere I go because it's my go-to method for helping myself with any serious issue. And the reason why is because vagus nerve activation, its primary benefit is when you're activating your vagus nerve is that you reduce inflammation. And think about it, what that means. It means that every time your body is injured in any way, there will be an experience of inflammation. And therefore sometimes that could be a problem and you could use this device to help yourself. So for example, one of the big ones for me, I use this when I have allergic reaction. That probably had the most phenomenal effect for me. And it literally worked like magic. It was crazy. It was like unbelievable. Like when I recall the experience, it honestly, it's still hard to believe how effective this was in terms of how my allergic reaction disappeared. But that's very rare incident for me. So I don't actually get to use it for that purpose or experience it for that. I have other reasons that I figured out how I can use this to benefit myself. For example, every time I burn myself in the kitchen, yes, the first thing I do is put my burnt area under cold water, but immediately after that, what I do, the next thing I will do is I will go for this and activate my vagus nerve in order to reduce that inflammation and work with that. That's one area that it actually took me a while to figure out. It's like, oh yeah, I should be doing that. Why am I not doing this? One that I'm still trying to encode in my head is that I need to go to this every time I get stressed. Now, I don't get stressed often, but occasionally I get dysregulated, like any of us. And I'll have some issue and you know what? Nothing is soothing me. I'm just in not a happy state. And I'm still not putting it together that, whoa, I should go to this and help myself with that. And of course, if I have like a injury, muscle injury, then again, I go for this for reduce inflammation and therefore achieve faster healing. So you can see how this is literally my number one medical tool that I use for my personal self. I suppose maybe I could argue that my number one medical tool is food, but besides food, this is my number one go-to because I use it now frequently enough, because these little incidences happen often enough that that I actually use this now frequently enough. Now, another way I use this for is I use it as a fantastic trick to fall asleep faster. It does really help me fall asleep faster. So then if you put it all together, I was thinking about like, how often do I use it? And conservatively, I would say I use it minimum once a week, maybe up to a few times a week. And the question is, well, why don't I use it more often? And I'm actually a little bit wary of this because I see this as such a powerful tool because of what it can do, because of its ability to suppress that inflammation. And then, of course, the question is, well, when could that become a problem if you do this too much? Under what circumstances is suppressing inflammation too much a problem? That's number one. And number two, in the process of me studying about vagus nerve activation and its benefits and so on, obviously I have been spending a lot of time now thinking about what am I supposed to do myself individually in order to maintain my vagus nerve in the best state possible. Because clearly this is cheating, right? This is electrical tool that I can send electrical signals like I'm doing right now. See, this is hooked up to my ear. I'm sending electrical stimulatory signals via skin in close proximity to the vagus nerve that this electrical stimulation actually forces activation of the vagus nerve. But clearly, that's not how biology works. And we're supposed to do everything in our power to make sure that our vagus nerve is as happy and as healthy as possible, because as I often mention in my videos, your general health and your overall health will be governed by how healthy and how well functioning and well performing your vagus nerve is. All right. So then I have been focusing as well on actually changing my lifestyle, if you will, in order to achieve the best performance for my vagus nerve naturally. And I think that's what we all should be doing. Exercise is a huge one, for example. There's many little tricks, right? Many cool tricks you can do in order to make sure that your vagus nerve is as happy and as healthy as possible. And I think that's what we should be focusing on. And this now becomes for me like a tool of more like emergency, except that these emergencies, as I told you, even though I'm fairly healthy individual, knock on wood, then I still end up using it 1 to 2 times a week. And then of course I always mention, listen, this is totally safe and effective, right? And that would be true based on all of the scientific literature that I have specifically, purposely investigated. But I've heard that term before, and you know what? Fool me once, shame on me, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, type of thing, right? So, and it's true. One of the big issues with this type of device, or with vagus nerve activation in general, is that we don't know what the long-term consequences of this type of device use is. We just don't know at all. We know that from all the studies that it appears to be extremely safe, in fact, and some of these studies have many months duration and even up to a year and exceeding a year. But overall, the device is safe. But you know what? We there is gap in information in terms of how safe it really can be long term, just like we had gap of that information in the recent past when the world was told that phrase. So to me, it's like, great, I use it, but don't focus on this. Use it more like a medical necessity, and instead focus on your life to benefit the function of your vagus nerve. And that's what I've been doing. And honestly, it really means healthy living. And I have dramatically changed my lifestyle since the pandemic in order to improve the quality of my healthy living in general. All right, so then let me wrap this up. Under what circumstances could too much activation of your vagus nerve leading to, let's say, too much inflammation suppression be a problem? And of everything I've been studying in recent times and so on, there's only two things that I can think of. And that would be in certain circumstances in cancer, number one, and number two, parasites. So, and I might explain that in another video in a future episode. Wendy. But we're not gonna get into details about that in this episode. But that could be a couple areas where suppressing inflammation too much can be a potential problem. And therefore, like everything you use to help yourself, there has to be a moderation and wise analysis of what is happening, what you're seeing, what are the outcomes. But personally, like I said, this device has become my number one medicine, if you will. I literally think of this like a drug that I will be popping into my mouth, but instead of putting something in my mouth, I use electrical current to stimulate part of my brain that is supposed to result in beneficial actions. And the best one is, again, remember what it does. It suppresses your inflammation, and it does not take much to cause inflammation. Every injury your body experiences will result in inflammation. Because inflammation, it's not all bad. There is two types of inflammation. There's destructive inflammation, but there is also inflammation that is used to signal tissue repair, right? So inflammation is necessary, but it's a problem if you're experiencing too much. And if I have some injury, that's the first thing I go to, is to suppress inflammation. And like I said, it's even small little things. My most frequent one, like I said, is burning myself in the kitchen, number one. And number two is when I push a little bit too hard with my exercises and I feel a sore muscle, then that's my go-to as well. All right. Okay, that's it for this episode. I'm gonna end it right here, and I'll see you guys. That's my 2-year use summary, and this has become one of the most precious things I own. And I wanted to let you know that. And we'll see what my future summary from this moment onward will be. All right. Bye, everyone. But also, before you go, please subscribe, or if you haven't already, please leave a comment. Please like, please share. Again, this is, and there are many natural ways you can also activate your vagus nerve and work towards that. And again, I implement all of that, so please check that out. I've discussed that in some other episodes as well. And I'll see you guys next time before it gets too windy. Bye, everyone.